I have not been hypnotized, but when I lived in Spain, my parents had a spare, like a studio apartment built above their house, in a big house, and he was a hypnotist.
Okay.
He was an odd character.
What was that the same guy that store?
No.
So what's with your dad letting so many magicians into your house? Welcome to episode 6 of A Wise Man Listens podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Wiseman. Make sure that you've subscribed, hit the bell icon to turn post notifications on, and of course, smash the like button. Our guest today is Stephen Jones. Stephen, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Stephen Jones. I am an illusionist and a magician.
Awesome.
Nice.
So, speaking of illusionists and magicians, why don't you kind of explain the difference?
The difference is, how do I express the difference without getting too technical? I think it's your experience. So
Okay.
I think a lot of people in everyday life can experience an illusion or a magic trick, and it doesn't have to be presented to them by a guy in a cape or a top hat with a deck of cards.
Yeah.
We live in a world of things changing really fast and people adapting, and if you don't catch up with that, that could be almost like an illusion. But to put it into performance perspective, I would say a magic trick is a trick that you watch happen, but you don't see anything happen.
Okay.
So I'll demonstrate that a little later.
Awesome.
And an illusion would be more of something like visual that you actually watch happen.
Yeah.
So if a visual illusion, and then a magic trick would be something that happens behind that you don't see. That there's necessarily the trick behind it, and so it's how you feel afterwards also. So I think if you watch a magic trick, you're thinking, what did that person do to me? He tricked me. But if you watch an illusion, you're now thinking, what did I see? So it's kind of confusing, and I know that a lot of magicians, if they watch this, they'll be like, nah, this guy, but everyone's got their own opinion.
For sure.
And I think my opinion is how you experience it and what you walk away with at the end is important as a performer. So I would want you to walk away with maybe a bit of what did I do, but also a lot of what did you just experience? What did you just see? Your eyes tricked you. How did that happen? So I like both of those, and a well-rounded mix is good.
It's funny. I don't know if it's just me or a lot of people think the same. It definitely, when it comes to illusions, not so much magic tricks, but when it comes to illusions and I watch something happen, I definitely spend a lot of time after trying to think what could be the possibility or what could be the reason why that I was just like fooled in a sense, or my senses were tricked into not picking up on what just happened. Like, how did that occur? Like, trying to think of all the options and all the possibilities of what maybe did that person do in the last 5 seconds to get from point A to point B, or to make this turn into that, or you know what I mean? Like, how did they make me believe that? Yeah, it's crazy.
Reverse engineering a feeling or a situation you've been in when you've been in a magic trick is we walk you through all these steps for a final ending or an effect. And at the end of the effect, if we've done our job right, we leave you confused. And if we're professional, we kind of build it around a way that you can't reverse engineer it.
Which is really cool to me, because like, magic and illusions have been around for literally ever, right? And you really have to understand that it's crazy to think that even now, we as a species who've developed all these types of research and all these types of analysis and observation and scientific kind of know-how, and still, no matter who you are, when you watch an illusion or a magic trick, you're still going to get fooled. And that really, in my mind, is something that's really special about magic. It's like a trick can be the same trick to a degree for 1,000 years, and everything else is advanced, but that trick can still trick you. You know what I mean? Like, it really humbles you as a person and as, you know, an intelligent species, right? It's pretty crazy. So why don't you tell me a little bit about what got you into magic or illusions and things like that?
Well, I hated magic tricks. I was a British kid. I grew up in Spain, so a lot of my life until I was about 18 was in Spain. And I didn't fit in. I lived in a Spanish little town. There was a lot of Spanish people. I was probably one of the only Brits for a long time. So I became shy and I became hidden, and I used to just keep, myself to myself. I didn't have many friends. And during that time, my parents were like singers. They were really active. They were around people. They were publicly amazing to be around because they just could speak to anyone. They weren't nervous. They weren't shy. And I was completely the opposite. Yeah. And I had older sisters. They could sing and they could be around people and be okay and go partying. And I just couldn't even imagine me leaving the house and doing that. I used to build Lego just to keep myself socially accepted. And we used to go to Orlando a lot. And during one visit, I bought a Chris Angel book. And I kind of read through it.
Mind Freak, right?
Yeah, Mind Freak. So Chris Angel, at the time, I thought it was amazing what he was doing. I couldn't understand it, and that kind of triggered something. And then when we got back to Spain, my dad started storing this magician's gear in our house. We had a spare storage pot. And he used to come and collect his stuff and drop stuff off for his shows. And we just started chatting, and he showed me a coin trick. And I'm thinking, wow, that's cool. But this guy's not a creepy mind freak kind of presenter. Yeah. He was just a cool guy, tall, blonde, handsome, normal guy. And he was just slick. And he had the smirk. And I'm like, I like this. And he said, well, here, I'll show you a quick coin. So he taught me a quick coin trick. And I was like, this is hard. And then I didn't know, but my dad had some old magic tricks dug away. So I already had Chris Angel's book. And I kind of stuck to it a little bit. And then I pulled out it was a rainy night, and I pulled out what I didn't know at the time is the oldest trick in history, which is the cups and balls. And I learned how to do that, and then I showed my mum right away. And I remember showing my family, they're like, wow. And then I showed like the two friends I had, and they're like, show me how it works. And I went and showed them right after. I was so proud, and then I realized that now I don't have any more tricks because I showed them how it worked. Yeah. And they just, from there, it became a thing. Yeah. I started learning, then YouTube, because I was terrible at reading books and keeping things in. I'm not a good book reader. Yeah. And from there, it led me to what I am today. I started performing. My dad saw an angle in it. Yeah. My dad's always been in sales and selling things. So he knew people who sold and taught magic tricks in magic shops. Yeah. So he said, let's start a mobile shop where we'd set up at exhibitions and festivals and things. And in Spain there was a lot. Yeah. There's like every other week there's something going on somewhere. And so we started that, and we hired a magician to do the presentations, and I'd be teaching because I was too shy to perform. I was still shy with people. And then it took me about a year, and then eventually I just exploded and just it went from there. My first gig was like to 250 people.
That's awesome.
And then it just went bigger and bigger, and took me around a bit. I got to travel with it, and
What's the biggest crowd you've ever worked with?
I'd say a good 400 or 500 people. That's awesome. That's been at a stage.
And would you say that you prefer larger crowds over more intimate settings?
Before COVID, I liked the intimate. Okay. And I've realized now that it's about performing and showing people. Yeah. And so if I can get 400 people virtually, I can. Yeah. I did a few things on TV when I was living in the Dominican, and I don't know how many people were watching, but there was probably a couple of thousand, And I never liked that because I don't see you.
You can't feed off of the energy.
I don't know what you're feeling. I don't know what you're watching. So I've always liked the up close and personal, because for me, learning tricks wasn't to look good on camera, wasn't to be cool, it was to experience your excitement over something I've mastered. Of course. And I got hooked on that. That was my drug, I'll say. So whenever I'm in big crowds, it's nice to get standing ovations. They're nice, but I like the intimate more. Absolutely.
Now with that being said, speaking of TV, you said that you've done a few, kind of presentations on TV in the Dominican, and obviously you can't really understand or know who you're talking to, how many people you're talking to, and feed off that. Yeah. But obviously, there's obviously a human fascination with magic and illusions on TV, especially like America's Got Talent. I'm sure you've seen that show. Yeah. And it's usually one of two types of performers that wins that show. It's either an incredible singer or an incredible magician, right? And it's a bit strange because, like you mentioned this before, it's not some creepy person or someone with a top hat, kind of with a cape, playing a character. Nowadays, it's someone you would never expect that is just phenomenal, right? Mm-hmm. And that, to me, I really like that kind of magic because it's not corny. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's badass. I'm like, damn, this person has some sick tricks, and I'm sure their family. It's just so entertaining. You know, they love watching, and it's just such a cool hand to play at a party. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not to say that like you are someone's party trick, right? Which I feel like magicians or illusionists probably can feel that way sometimes. You know, oh, here's the guy with the magic.
Show me a
Do
trick.
it's like a comedian, right? You go and they go, make me laugh.
Yeah.
That's not how it works, right? You can't just demand someone make you laugh. It's like ridiculous.
Yeah.
But what do you think is the human fascination, especially on these types of competition shows on TV where these people aren't necessarily interacting with anyone? And it's just, you kind of have to assume that what you are doing is drawing people in.
I think it's down to the type of performance arts we do is different to, so singing, you have to hear the singer.
Yep.
As long as you can see, you can watch a magic trick.
True.
And if you don't have sight, then there's still illusionists that can perform for people who can't see or can see very little. And so we are one of the only performing artists in the endless list of performing arts that can entertain someone anywhere in the world.
Yep.
And I talk about this in my shows. I could be, graphically, don't imagine it, but I could be butt naked in the middle of a forest and be able to do a show with a twig and a rock.
Okay.
To people who can't even speak my language or can't speak.
That's true.
So,
it crosses borders, it crosses languages,
yeah.
and it crosses different types of senses as well.
Yes.
I never even thought of that.
We mess with a lot of what you're experiencing to a point that we occupy we can take more viewers.
Yeah.
We can, we can relate, we can get more people to relate because if you are a singer, but you're the most talented opera singer in the world and you go on this show, and they're like, wow, but what if you only like heavy metal?
Yeah.
You've now just cut what they could, that type
There's
of
too
person.
many niches.
Yeah. So with magic, I guess we all like the unknown in a way, and we all venture into that, what we don't know. And a lot of magicians would say that everyone loves magic. I wouldn't agree. I think everyone could be triggered by magic. I don't say they love it. I've done shows. Yeah, I mean, I don't think everyone would love it. I think that everyone will be triggered in a way that they'll respond to something that they're not used to. So, for instance, I have people that hate being put in them, like, say if I'm sat with that certain personality, and me and you, and I'm doing a magic trick, and you don't want to express that you're fooled, you're now going to hide that and go, yeah, I know how you did that. And so, but inside, I know your brain just melted.
Yeah.
But
why do you think people do that? It's so lame.
They don't like being put on the spot, and it's. I don't know. I haven't studied this psychologically, but I think it's also down to
Gotta be a lack of control, power thing.
Power, the macho-ness. Like, it tends to be male situations that I've been in, especially as a young entertainer. When I was about 18. Traveling, doing this, I'd approach young couples around my age, and I could already see the gentleman like putting the girl to one side to say, show me the trick, not her, kind of thing. Like, and I'm just there to show you something fun, and you're seeing it as I'm trying to steal your girl.
Challenging you,
And I never liked that, and so I've always those little challenges growing up in that learning as I'm growing up as a young adult, learning magic tricks around my age, and in the older crowd, I realized these similarities didn't exist with older married people or just people with families. That was different. They appreciated more. So I decided that I started to venture into different performances for people, just because some people didn't like it in front of other people. Yeah. But if they were on their own 101, or if they wanted me to come, they'd let me in. So it's all down to situation too, I think.
And it's interesting because I grew up not necessarily being a huge magic or illusion fan.
Yeah.
Not like, and what I mean by that is it's not like I went out of my way to watch it or find so I could be entertained by that kind of source, right?
Yeah.
But whenever I did find it or whenever it found me, I was always blown away, like almost like on an emotional level. Like I felt like, holy crap. And especially when there's a story behind the trick or there's a story behind the person performing the trick. I don't know, because I just assume the amount of work it takes to be able to get at least decent at a trick it takes time and constant repetitive effort, right?
Yeah.
And even when you feel like you're good at something, you want to master it, right? You don't want to be a good magician. You want to master your trick so that way there's not a living soul on the planet who could see through what you're doing, right?
Yep.
And it's strange. It's like I saw David Copperfield when I was a kid.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So my parents took me to a live David Copperfield show when I was less than 10 years old. And I don't remember much from the show. But what I do remember is that I was sitting in the crowd with my family, lights off, obviously, and he's on the stage. He did something, and literally within a second, somehow he disappeared. And he was talking behind me, maybe 10 feet away.
Got goosebumps.
Yeah, and I looked behind me, and he was standing on the ledge of like the upper level,
Theater.
as if like he did not skip a beat from his sentence. It was my mind was just like 1,000% he was there, and within the speed of light, he's behind me, continuing as if. So it's almost like all that happened is like I was turned around instantly. So like my perception was here, and all of a sudden it continues as if nothing changed behind me, and I was like, and that was it. There was like that was the end of the show, but there was not like necessarily a big boom to it, besides everyone clapping. But I was just riding in my mom and my dad's car driving home, and I'm just like trying to understand what the hell did I just experience as a little kid, right? And I just remember that moment and remembering how crazy it was as a little kid seeing that and just it completely blowing my mind and absolutely unable to understand it, no matter how hard I try. And the interesting thing is as a kid, I've always been obsessed with knowing the unknown. Wanting to understand the universe, wanting to understand how things work, wanting to understand why we're here, what's religion, what's spirituality. Yeah. Like even at a young age, I would spend time thinking about this 24/7. So when I would see things that I actually could not understand or fathom, like if I have a question, I could usually refer back to scientific literature and at least get some resemblance of an understanding, enough to make me feel comfortable. But with that, there was nothing. Yeah. So I just had to either accept that that's something I can't know or become it. Right? Yeah. Because there's no in the middle. You either have to be okay with not knowing it or you have to become part of it. Right? And I think one thing that I came to the conclusion of over the last 10 years is that magic is kind of like science. Yeah. And the reason why is because all it's doing is manipulating to a degree. And not everything. Not every trick does this, but it's manipulating our senses and how we perceive things and our understanding of time, our understanding of sight, our understanding of thought and hearing, right? It's using that information to almost like hack the brain. Yeah. And that in itself is kind of like there's science behind it. Yeah. It's just not maybe something that gets researched, so we haven't connected the dots. Yeah. But it's weird. It's like going back to like mystical arts or thousands and thousands of years ago when you'd have a shaman who took care of the village and would read their minds or tell them the future or have a premonition or do something that would scare away enemies with fire and light, and just that was science. Yeah. You know what I mean? Whether it was good science or not, it was science, medicine even. Like all this stuff was derived once and it was like, well, that's magic. Think about the meridians, right? In acupuncture. That's a 5,000 plus year old medicine that is now proven to work. Yeah. Okay. But 5,000 years ago, that was magic. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Magic needles, yeah.
Yeah, it's magic. You stick something into someone and you hum a specific hymn, and all of a sudden that person's back pain goes away or a swelling lymph node decreases. Like, it's magic. You know what I mean? But now, because we have a better understanding of it, it's science. And I wonder if that's ever going to happen with magic or illusions. Will what we know as magic or illusions one day become a scientific method of knowing how to hack someone's mind and perception, right?
I think they're at that
You think
stage.
so?
Yeah.
How come?
I follow a lot of magicians and illusionists, and I've seen techniques starting to be used in university.
for certain degrees, like psychiatrists.
Like what?
I find when you study people and you tell them you're gonna study them, you're a different person.
Yeah.
So when we do magic tricks, you don't realize, but we can study you.
Yeah.
Using just techniques that we learn. Just, if I do a card trick 50 times to 50,000 times, the ending's going to be the same, but your reaction might be different, and I might start to figure out how you're going to start to react.
Yeah.
So it's manipulation. So we're learning how to manipulate you to think things without you even realizing that you don't have free choice in situation. And I think that's already in play.
Yeah.
I don't have the scientific facts or the authors or any of the actual proof to say that they're doing it, but I can start to see it now, that the psychology that we use in our shows and the I guess the science behind some of our things are being applied to everyday life. For example, how we have now furniture that you look at it one way and it's one thing, and then you look at the other way and it's a completely different piece of furniture. It's artistic, and they're using similar concepts of deception or angles as what we would use in our tricks. And furniture that do things like you lift up and then things open, and they're using similar techniques that would be constructed in a magic trick. And I know, because I find it fascinating when I go to stores, right? I follow Instagram pages that have all these funky pieces of furniture or items, like a coffee mug, and it has different things on it, and like you pour the water in it and then suddenly it all changes color. Like there's objects we can buy as a magician that when we do certain things it all changes color. And I'm thinking, wow, like this, are we swapping now?
And it's true, because like now we understand why that's possible. But again, 500 years ago, you do that, you're a witch. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Because it's never been seen before, so it can't possibly be legit. It's got to be witchcraft or something.
My fear is that, like what you're saying, is one day science will catch up. I think, and I talk about this in my shows, and I've talked about this for about 5 years now, because I was doing a card trick and a kid held the card at the end and he looked and he says, he's looking at it. I'm like, why are you looking at the card? It's your card. Everyone else is gobsmacked, like shocked. This kid's like 6 or 7 and he's looking at it and going, is there Bluetooth or Wi-Fi in this? And I'm like, what? And then I'm like, oh, wait, hang on. We're making nanotechnology is so precise now that maybe one day we're going to have things that could probably change the look of a playing card just by having it.
Probably already have that. It's interesting because obviously, can you tell the difference when you're performing to a crowd or a small group, and can you tell the difference between who is more of a scientific minded person right away, based off of just the questions that they ask and how they watch the trick? Not necessarily are they trying to figure out how you're tricking them, but like you can see that their brain is working differently when they're watching. They're
defensive, they're asking the right questions, and that's why I now present myself as an illusionist. Because I realized that when I'd go up to crowds of people, after doing thousands and thousands of crowds of people, that, hey, can I show you a magic trick? Anyone responding to that, a lot of people would sit in their brain, they're going, this guy's going to try and fool me. And, I show up, I'm a showman, I dress up like a showman. I don't leave my house without dressing up like a showman for shows. And so, it's now there's a level, there's a challenge. And
that's not too enjoyable, right?
No, and so all I want to do is show you magic tricks. When I see that face, and it was a facial expression that I started to notice, I'm like, this person is now defensive, and their answer would be like, okay, try fool me, or yes, let's do it.
But it's not the same thing. It's not. You're not fooling anyone. You're not technically, like when I say trick, obviously, we know that what I mean by that is it's a trick, but you're not trying to trick someone. You're performing a trick, and how that person perceives that or how they react to that, really, it's not your fault. It's really more so that's how they perceive what's happening, right? It's crazy. So, have you ever, I'm sure you know who Shin Lim is, the guy from America's Got Talent. What do you think of his performances?
I think he's a mastermind. And me and the friends I'm close with in the magic community, when he started growing, was like 10 years ago. Like we all had his products he was releasing, because he learned how to use sleight of hand to make a card change a different way that we've been doing since David Blaine became famous, which was it's the same thing.
So he was able to really change everything to a degree. He
changed a lot, and he wasn't a book magician. I remember he did an interview and he said he learned a lot from YouTube and just producing his own things. And he's really good at cards. He's a card mastermind. And America's Got Talent was an open stage for him because he was already somewhat of a celebrity for thousands and thousands of magicians across the world.
Do you think that made it easier for him to win because he had so many people voting for him?
I don't know if I don't really know how that voting system works.
I think it's you text the number of the person you want to vote for within a certain
timeline. Yeah. Because I'm not there and I understand how the magic world works, I don't trust shows like that. Okay. I don't trust Simon Cowell.
Yeah.
And that's just the way I think is I'm not there.
But that's because you are also a Brit.
Yeah,
right?
True.
So
yeah.
None of you guys trust each other, right? No, I'm just kidding.
He speaks British English. He's not trustworthy. No, you see a kid who goes on there who's vocally amazing. She's probably not been famous for long, but you see someone like some of the magicians that have been on there have been some of the world's best magicians have gone on America's Got Talent.
Yeah.
So I find it hard now for someone to ask me, say, hey, do you think you could go on America's Got Talent? I'd love to, but I think I have to have a certain standard now. I have to meet a certain criteria.
Yeah.
It's no longer an amateur show.
Yeah.
High-end professional magicians are going on this. Like they've been to Vegas. They've had shows.
Yeah.
They've toured the world, and year after year they just keep throwing in better and better magicians.
Yeah.
But they still put on some people that not many people have heard of.
But with that being said, I do find that some of the people that win these shows or get really far aren't necessarily the best.
No.
Yet. Yeah. But what they are is people can relate.
Yeah.
And then people can connect to their story. So, I mean, whether or not you think of yourself as a professional or still an amateur, you could probably still go pretty far based off of your story. Yeah. And if you're able to express that story properly, right?
Yeah.
And again, your perception of whether or not you're an amateur or a professional is really probably more so based off of your own just feeling of where you are, right? You might be closer to one level than the other, but you might not feel that way, right?
Yeah, I get that.
Do you ever so how long have you been doing magic and illusions and things like
About
that?
12 years.
12 years. And how long do you think it takes until you no longer feel a sense of like that imposter syndrome type?
I didn't have a timeline for it, but it was more of I sat down and looked back and I was like, wow, I couldn't do this trick in front of people because I was so shy and scared, and now I don't feel that way. So I don't know when that barrier broke. I definitely think going on live television, the Dominican, was a huge step for me because I did about 10 shows and I only got like 2 or 3 recordings out of it because they were not very good at producing the actual recording yet. And one of them I said, I'm going to completely improvise it. I just packed my bag the night before with random stuff, card decks and coins and things, and I improvised I didn't have any plan, nothing, and I wanted to be able to do that. So I think the moment I started challenging myself like that and winning, like coming out on top, like doing a great show, which I didn't spend hours and hours scripting, you get a bit cocky with it, I guess, but at the same time you advance, you reach a next level.
Yeah, confidence is probably a huge factor when it comes to magic and performing, right? Like the more confident you are, the easier it is for you to completely express yourself and give everything you can to the performance without limitation, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And especially that interaction with who you're dealing with. Mm-hmm. That's probably a big factor. Like watching someone who's got no interaction with you isn't necessarily a bad thing. It depends on if they are using that to their advantage. But if not, and it's in the open and you want to connect, that probably makes a really big difference. What do you think of these really popular like Instagrammers or influencers who do magic in LA? They film it, they put it on YouTube, on Instagram, TikTok, and they get pretty famous with their card tricks and things like that.
I like it. I think America's Got Talent, Shin Lim, David Blaine, we're cool now.
Yeah.
Before David Blaine, before Chris Angel, magic was creepy. When I first started when I was 15, I didn't tell anyone in my school until I left, until I was 18, that I actually did magic tricks. I was scared.
Yeah.
It was creepy. It was weird, especially in Spain. Most Spanish magicians are not cool either. It wasn't a thing yet. The whole street magic wasn't a big thing, and so it hadn't grown worldwide. And then thanks to America's Got Talent and all of this, it's cooler. So I definitely think that
it makes a big difference.
These guys helped a lot. To like Julius Dean. He's a British guy who lives in LA and does a bunch of crazy tricks. A lot of stuff.
That's the younger guy, right?
Yeah, younger guy. And he does it on like college girls. It went viral.
I think I know who you're talking about. He even did a trick in front of Drake, right? I think.
I think so. Yeah. There's a few now that are out there that are growing. They've thought of these ideas, genius minds, and they're pushing it, and it's growing the idea of magic, being around it more. So now, we're accepting that we don't have to have the top hat and the cape, but we're also accepting that it's cool.
Yeah.
And now I go to parties and I get hired for events, and people are so excited. They don't even care about the trick, other than before it's like, I've got this magician coming in and, he's just going to do his thing because I just want to creep you all out. It's now like, he is the main event. Like there could be singers, there could be DJs, but the fact there's a magician, that's the main event because of the feeling people walk away with after watching it. If you're good, obviously.
That's really awesome, man. Yeah. Speaking of tricks, you want to show me something?
Yeah, so I started doing stuff over Zoom and I've grown that, and I realized my first few shows over Zoom, it was all just watch me.
Yeah.
And I've always had an interaction with my audience. I built all of my tricks around touching you, having you interact with me.
Sure.
To remove that away from me was like me learning magic tricks again.
Yeah.
So I've been doing a lot of research and trying new things out. And so I came across this idea, and we're going to do it. Yeah.
This is badass. My own professional show, eh? That's so awesome.
For you. So, I'm going to give you a choice. I like choices.
Should I move my computer out of the way?
Yeah. Choices. Do you want the blue pill or the red pill? Do you want the blue cards or the red cards?
I'll do the blue.
It honestly doesn't matter. Okay. So, I could say they're disinfected.
Sure.
I've just opened them, I guess.
I trust you.
So, take the cards and honestly, it's so easy. And actually, if you're watching from home, I at this point, grab a deck of cards. You're going to do it from home. So we're going to interact with anyone who's watching this, even if you watch it a year from now.
Yeah.
This should be fun for you.
Awesome.
The magic is going through the screen.
Yeah.
So deck of cards, just go through them. They're all different, and just you can give them a mix if you don't like them. You don't need to shuffle them. It's just, I don't want you to think I've set a certain order for you, because I just got them out of my box and you're holding them.
Yep.
And no one ever trusts a magician at first glance. So take out 9 random cards.
9?
So just remove 9.
Okay.
Now, I do want to point out, the ones I have like markings on.
Sure.
I keep my cards and I make people write on them, and this is just one of the decks I have from there. So there might be some that have writing on. But it doesn't ruin the card.
Yeah.
It just adds a memory. You can get rid of the rest.
Okay.
So whoever's watching this, you should have 9 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cards, and just give them a mix. The cards you have, so you don't know the order of the cards. So everyone watching would have different cards. We all have the same hands. That's a real trick.
Yeah.
So you're gonna look at your cards. Okay. Now, I hope this works. So I'm going to show you mine. Okay. And you're holding your cards like this, like if you were holding a poker deck, like I had playing poker cards. And from left to right, remember the second card in.
On both sides.
On just the second card in. So from left to right, that's second card. So mine is the 2 of diamonds. Okay. I'm nervous now. Scared this won't work. So gather the cards into your hand like this. So you remember that card that you have. Okay, don't forget that. Now I want you to spell, everyone watching, spell your own name. So I'll show you what mine looks like first before you proceed. And if you've got a really long name, we only have 9 cards, so spell your nickname. Because anyone who's got more than 9 digits in the name will probably have
like a nickname.
Okay.
So mine's Steven, so Steven. So deal down. Yeah, now you got to count. So you got to count. You know, so deal down.
JONETHAN.
Perfect. So the rest of the cards, if you have any left over, just drop them on top and gather them. So this is something I've liked. So we're all passionate about something, but me and you both share something in common. We're married. Okay, so we love someone. And so I want you to spell out.
We're not married with each other.
Not married with each other. Yeah. We're
Not
both
that there's
married
anything wrong with that.
to other people. Yeah. So that's a good point. Should have specified that. Deal out the word loves that ends in S. So LOVES.
LOVES.
Drop the cards on top. And now spell out the name of that loved one. So
just the first name.
First name, just the name. So I'm going to put mine.
MARY.
Okay, drop the cards on top. Everyone who's done this, if you followed, you would all have different names. Maybe there could be coincidences, but we all had different cards. We remembered a different card. But there's one thing we all have in common. We're all watching AWL. So let's spell out Wiseman. Okay? So, but follow me first. That last letter, hold that card. So WISEMAN.
And then hold this one.
The N, which was the last letter.
Okay.
Is that your card? Is that it?
Yeah.
That's your card.
That's crazy.
Was that the one you remembered?
The second one,
The second N.
Yeah.
So everyone watching, that should be your card. Wise men. Looped us all together in one trick.
That's crazy, bro. It's funny because when I remembered it was a 2 and it was a red one. But when I looked through it, it was a 2 and it's a black one. And I think what likely happened is I probably remembered your card.
You remembered
and
mine.
the color. Yeah. But hey, it's the only 2 there, and I know.
So I'm glad there was only one too.
Yeah,
you
can
could
you
have been
imagine?
like, Steven, I think
That is so cool, bro.
Yeah, so everyone watching, if you followed, the magic worked for you. If you didn't follow, rewind, watch it again.
Yeah.
And get your hours viewed up.
We're gonna make a clip of this.
Yeah,
for sure. So that way people can just go to it and find it and do the
and
trick
enjoy
themselves.
it.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I didn't create this. I've always like you watch a lot of videos.
So it would work with
YouTube.
any last name, anything like that.
Sorry?
It would work with any last name, anything like that.
I think it works with names. Yeah, names as long as it's not over 9 digits.
Yeah.
We're okay.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's fun. It works a lot of fun. I'm trying to incorporate that in my Zoom shows because it interacts with everyone.
Yeah.
And it's not so long that you lose a step.
For sure.
And we all get to connect.
Yeah.
So.
How long do the Zoom shows last? And usually when you're doing it, do you see other people on the screen as well, like you're watching?
I do. Yeah. So I interact with them. We'll highlight them, get them more involved. For who wants to, you can kind of tell. Some people don't have the video on because it's corporate and they want to just be part of it. So I kind of get rid of them on my gallery view, so I'm not watching. There's a lot to learn on that stuff. But I did realize that it was good, still good to see people interact. And if you've done it well, at the end you get that applause come through, and you're like, "Ooh, that's very loud. That's good."
Yeah.
So I like the rewardingness of how this trick rewards you. Is at the end, everyone's doing it from their home.
Yeah.
Everyone has different cards, different names, and somehow we all end at our card. And I think that's magic.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I'm not doing card tricks. I'm not doing illusions. I'm just doing something that for a lot of viewers would be magical.
Yeah.
I'm sure someone could try and reconstruct what's going on.
Yeah.
If you do, then do it, perform it, because it's such a cool thing to do.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you a question. What type of performance in the realm of magic is it when someone, I can't remember the name, when someone takes a group of people on stage, makes them go to sleep?
Hypnotism.
Hypnotism. What are your thoughts on hypnotism?
I have not been hypnotized, but when I lived in Spain, my parents had a spare, like a studio apartment built above their house, a big house, and he was a hypnotist.
Okay.
He was an odd character.
What was that? The same guy that store?
No. So
what's with your dad letting so many magicians into your house?
My dad's been an My dad started karaoke and started selling karaoke machines before it was even a thing. Yeah. So he kind of been around the entertaining industry. And where we lived in Spain was really high on night entertainment. Every bar had some kind of singer, cover band, something like live entertainment. So the cabaret thing. Yeah, that's why. But yeah, back to the hypnotism. I spoke to him so many times, I couldn't figure out how just a simple art, the art of suggestion, could lead people into that state of mind. I yet have been hypnotized.
Have you had someone try to hypnotize you?
Yes. I was too focused on other things.
You kind of have to be willing, right, in order for that to happen.
It's willing, open, and just relaxed. Being able to be relaxed. I can't get out of my own head sometimes. Same. And there's one thing I've noticed hypnotists do is before they start, they test everyone out to see if they can follow through. So they have this opening kind of approach. If there's thousands of people or just 20, they'll put everyone in a situation and everyone has to imagine it. And if people react a certain way at a certain point, they followed. Mm-hmm. And it's simple. Do you want to know kind of techniques they would do? So like they make you... imagine you're standing by a waterfall and you hear the noise, and they get deeper into that. There's nothing else going on, and you're sat by a waterfall, and all you can hear is the water falling down. And now people starting to imagine that, how peaceful it is, but they're all closing their eyes, and then you're holding a feather in one hand and a balloon that's got helium in the other, and then the feather starts to get heavier and heavier and heavier. And as you're imagining that, people's hand, if they start to drop, they're imagining that reality. And then there's other things they walk through, but at some point, and I don't know exactly the moment it happens, he says something or she says something through the performance that would result in you reacting a certain way if you're at that point. And once you've reacted that way, you can come on stage and you're ready to be hypnotized.
Kind of sounds like guided meditation.
Yeah. It's in a way.
Because guided meditation works for me.
Yeah.
So would that mean that I can likely be hypnotized?
I haven't crossed them together. I haven't crossed them together, but I think they're using similar principles.
Because they're probably trying to bring those two states, the states that you need to be in to be hypnotized or in a meditative state, probably aren't too different when it comes to the types of waves your brain is currently working on, right? So a quick story. When I was in university, first year university, we had a hypnotist, and he, like, pretty much the entire first year crowd were at a bar that's on campus, and he was performing. So we're all sitting around watching, and he travels between different universities and colleges and performs. And he goes through his spiel, and I at that stage was pretty like, I'm definitely not going to let you hypnotize me, right? I was not open to it because I don't want to be embarrassed, but
because they do funny
they
things.
mess with people bad. What they did was nuts. So throughout the show, he brings on probably like 6 to 12 people rotating throughout the entire 2 hours, and he eventually has like a group of people on stage sitting in chairs looking like they're passed out, right? And they're all in their underwear, which, to me, I found at the time really, really funny. But now that I think back, that wouldn't fly now, right? In today's day and age, in culture, that would be, you'd be canceled for that, right?
Cancel culture would get you.
100%. And I remember one of the girls who was on stage was a very, very quiet, introverted type of person.
Preserved, yeah.
And she was in one of my classes, and I didn't know her well, but she was a cute girl, and me and a few of my buddies would watch her from time to time when she'd come into the class. She's quiet, she's kind of just off to her own, always just stayed to herself. But on stage, in her underwear, this guy turned her into like a Madonna, like literally the most sexualized entertainer in the world. And we're like, this is both awesome, but also really creepy and messed up. And when I think back to that, I was like, would you consider that being taken advantage of, or would you consider that as part of the show?
I think you should be allowed to have your own control. And I think when an entertainer is using you to entertain, we should be also considering how much you could control for other people.
Yeah.
I think some hypnotists can go a bit far. And
I think even if I think that was a bit far, it would probably be very far, because I have pretty extreme levels of what I'm okay with, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So would you say that there's certain groups within the, magical, illusionary, and what is it called?
Hypnotism
kind of realms. Would you say there's groups that disagree with each other in any certain way, or do they all kind of just work with each other and use each other's skill sets and such?
Magicians, there's some that are now getting on AGT and other on like this performance shows that involve hypnotism in their act. And they don't necessarily have to hypnotize you and make you think that where you are is the hottest country in the world and you have to take all your clothes off.
Yeah.
But they can walk you through certain situations where suggesting you and you following what they will benefit from. So a lot of hypnotists I'm noticing now are doing this quick hypnotism where they're getting people and just walking up to them and putting them under a hypnosis state. They're not even making them do anything. It's just being able to do it. And I think there's a lot of pre-show behind that. So there is...
What do you mean?
Magicians and illusionists that work in kind of a mentalism routines where there's not card tricks.
That's new to me, mentalism.
Yeah.
I've only started learning about that through the Netflix specials.
Yeah. So there's a huge guy in the UK called Darren Brown, and I suggest if you're going to watch anything he's done. He convinced a person to kill someone else.
But they didn't actually do it.
But no, he made sure that the person that was being, he staged a whole situation, a whole meeting, and they targeted one person, and he put him through all these situations.
To lead them to the point where they were ready to kill someone.
To lead them to the point
But that wasn't hypnosis, that was suggestion. And just making slight changes in their day-to-day experiences to see how easy it is to take an average normal person to the point where they're ready to kill someone.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And using techniques of, suggesting. You don't have to put someone under for them to follow a suggestion. But Darren Brown is really good at hypnosis.
So not to interrupt,
yes.
But I just had a thought, and I don't want to lose this thought, but if he is able to do that, how likely is this that, for example, in America, their army and people who are trained, pretty much killers, trained assassins, trained government tools, pretty much, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of something Ultra? I think it was the Ultra missions where they would take someone like you off the street, totally unaware, kidnap you, bring you to a training base, and start to work your mind to the point where you are now a empty shell of a person, and then they would train you, highly trained, and then eventually, when you're ready, they'd put you back to where they would literally leave you where you were picked up a year later, and you have no idea what just happened. And now, at any moment, they can, and you are on a mission to go kill someone.
Wow.
That is, I'm gonna look that up. American.
Yeah, I've never heard of that.
So have you ever heard of the show America, or the movie America Ultra, or American Ultra?
Is that on Netflix?
I don't know where it is, but that movie came out maybe a couple of years ago, but this is a real thing. Wow. But of course they would not admit it.
No.
But it's a way of mind controlling your assets, right? If you're spending a couple $1 million on developing a human being to be able to do extremely important missions for you, you're going to make sure that no one knows, right? Because those people are worth millions to you, if not more.
Yeah.
But it's crazy. It's called American Ultra. I think that's the movie, and it's I can't remember who. Well, you know that movie, the Magic movie that came out recently with
Now You See Me?
Woody Harrelson. Yeah. So the main actor from that, the skinny guy.
Oh, Jesse Eisenberg?
Yeah. He was actually the one who played in American Ultra. It's funny because he also played a magician in one movie, but he also played this person pretty much was victimized by the American government to become a killer.
A killer without even knowing.
He wouldn't know when he's in that mode, but he'd just be this dorky dude.
Kind of sounds like the Bourne
Kind of.
theory
But those things aren't unrealistic.
No.
From what you're telling me.
Yeah.
If you can lead someone down within a week to the point where they're going from being a completely normal individual with no prior issues to being ready to kill someone, and you're the one that's controlling that, it's not hard to believe that after a year and a half of extreme mental manipulation, you are going to go on an assassin spree for the American government. Like,
yeah,
it's
scary
weird.
Not knowing too, right?
Yeah, because you won't know if that's happening to you or not, right?
It's like hypnotherapy in a way. People ask me all the time, is that something I do, or if it's something I would recommend? And I personally haven't needed it. I've heard of it. My uncle did it, and he hasn't touched a cigarette. So,
well, it's to a degree, it's mind control, is it not?
yeah, it
Right.
is.
Yeah.
It is. So it's just helping you. In a way, I guess the approach they do for hypnotherapy is not to say you are never going to smoke again, but just the thought of a cigarette touching your mouth is so foul that you're just not going to want to go near it. And they break that part down.
Yeah.
So imagine putting that into perspective as to you as a human being.
Yeah.
You know, the thought of being in a certain situation, you're going to react this way. And then, you know, the click of the fingers kind of the triggering it.
Yeah.
It's scary to not know what we can be programmed for without knowing.
It's pretty messy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you think, or how young would you say is too young as far as a kid to be exposed to magic tricks?
I think
like, are there magic tricks for like babies?
Yeah.
Really?
I think the moment, I mean, I don't have a kid, but or like my wife's sisters and my sisters have kids, and I've been trying, my best friend has a kid, and I've been trying to, when I see these kids, I just try little things to see at what age can you perceive and understand that something was there, now it's not. And I think it's down to the kids' knowledge of physics.
Yeah.
You know, they're born with a blank slate and they fill it all in. I know genes auto fills a lot in.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of part of life you have to fill in for yourself as a baby. And I do get some kids when they see a card trick, I'd say 3 or 4, maybe 5, and they see something, sometimes they think that it's something they haven't learnt yet. But an adult, they know it's physically impossible.
Yeah.
But they just think, I haven't learnt that in my life yet.
That's
so
interesting.
It's interesting to have that approach. Sometimes they're the best audiences.
Yeah.
Because you can't manipulate them down a way to think because they just don't think that way.
Yeah, their minds haven't ever been perceived. They have never perceived that situation, so they can't lead into it. Like yesterday, I was playing with my son, and who's like 8 months old, and I was making a remote control disappear simply by like holding half of it like this, and I would just go whoop, and then show him it with my hand disappearing. He'd be like, "Whoa!" Right? And so I guess magic tricks to a degree. You can trick anyone, but I wouldn't necessarily consider that magic. It was just really a factor of disappearing and reappearing, right?
Yeah, but the effect, if you wouldn't consider it magic, but what is magic? It's just the art. I find it's the art of astonishment, and I always play off how you feel afterwards. If you're astonished, that's magic.
That's
you don't
true.
have. A lot of people say, I want to learn magic, and I teach people, and they're like, but I'll never get like you. I'd be like, you could be wherever you wanted to if you put time in.
For sure.
But a magician, you could know one trick and fool one person. You're doing a magic trick.
Yeah.
You're a magician.
Yeah.
If you want to, in terms, if you want to use terminology, if you can do one thing and fool somebody and it's entertaining, that's a magic trick.
Yeah.
So you are a magician. You don't have to know thousands. If you know 1 or 2 and they're good, that's cool.
That's awesome, man. I think that's a good message to wrap up with. Like you said, even if you know just one trick and you can fool just one person, that's magic.
Yeah.
And if you can make someone feel astonished and wow someone, that's magical, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Stephen, do you want to tell anyone where to find you online?
Yeah, so Stephen Jones Magic, that's on everything.com, on the web, we'll say.
Awesome.
YouTube.
We'll have your Instagram link
Instagram,
in the description
so I'm on all of that. I'm trying to grow more of a video personality now because I did a lot of shows in person. So I'm trying to grow the other side now, the Zooms and the watching me on Instagram kind of idea. So that's
awesome.
growing.
I think you'd be a fantastic energy and person to watch on Instagram, doing like 1-minute clips. You know, I think you'd kill that. So you should definitely go down that route. I'm trying it. Awesome. Well, everyone, thank you so much for watching the episode. And if you've enjoyed it, again, please make sure you've subscribed. Hit the bell icon to be notified of our next episode. And of course, smash the like button. It makes a big difference for our videos and helps a lot more people find them and watch them on YouTube. And we really appreciate you guys. So anyways, peace.